The room. Yay. And welcome back to all the people out there around the world. We're really happy that you could join us. And I just checked again, and it's very exciting to have so many people involved in our Facebook group. Just to review, the Facebook group is called eTeacher Scholars Conference, which is the name of this 2-day event. And we're well into our second day now. And at the end of yesterday, as I said, we had 190 members in our Facebook group, and now we have 284, so still growing. Okay, so I'm going to introduce our next speaker, and she is Hiroko Sakaguchi from Japan. And she's an English teacher at Fukuoka Prefectural Kasumigaoka, is that correct?
Yes,
Senior High School. And she was a participant in University of Oregon's Methods 2 course, which is all about project-based learning. And she's going to be talking about her workshop on project-based learning for EFL teachers in Japan. So welcome, Hiroko.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Hiroko Sakaguchi. I'm from Japan. I'm an English teacher at senior high school. I'm very happy to have this chance to speak to you today about project-based learning. First of all, I want to express my special thanks to the U.S. Department of State, the U.S. Embassy in Japan, and Dr. John and Teresa and all of the colleagues here and my colleagues in Japan. I have divided my project into 3 parts: project summary, activity, and explanation of PBL. Let me start with project summary. Host will be Fukuoka Prefecture Kasumigaoka Senior High School and the Department of States. Kasumigaoka Senior High School, where I'm working, is designated as Super Science High School by the Ministry of Education. As Super Science High Schools, demonstration classes and teacher training workshops are held frequently to share new and innovative ideas with teachers of other schools. Therefore, if teachers at Kasumigaoka Senior High School are familiar with project-based learning, multiplier effect toward outside the school can be expected. Therefore, participants will be 14 EFL teachers at Kasumigaoka Senior High School in Japan. Program: workshops on project-based learning for EFL teachers in Japan. Schedule: 3 2-hour project from August 18 to 20, 2012. Now, let me explain about the current educational situation in Japan. In Japan, the new course of study will be implemented in 2013 next year. The new course of study requires teachers to get students to be exposed to real communication scenes by using original authentic materials. However, few teachers in Japan are accustomed to making such original and authentic materials to give students chances to output their own opinions and ideas. So, goals of the workshop are introduce participants to principles of PBL through peer and group discussion, enable participants to create ABCD objectives and rubrics in groups, enable participants to start designing project-based learning projects in groups. Now, I'd like to do a role-playing activity with you. So I want someone to read the passage on the screen. Thank you.
Teacher 1, 2, and 3 are all senior high school teachers in Japan and talking about their students.
So I need now 3 kind volunteers. Any volunteers? Okay, Janet, Richard, and Victoria. Thank you, Taoki. Could you come to the front? Okay. So who will be teacher A? Richard. Okay, 2, Victoria, and Janet 3. Okay. So, teacher, could you read out the passage on the screen?
I have a problem now. Most of my students pass a vocabulary test which they take at the beginning of every class. But after the test is over, they forget most of the vocabularies.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, my students also memorize new English words just to pass the test. They do not know how to use the words in the context.
Also, students seem to study English to pass entrance examinations. How can we make them see English as a communication tool?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So these are the problems that many Japanese English teachers face. So how about you? How about your students? So is in your country is traditional method conducted? So now let's discuss about the problems you face in your local teaching context in pairs for 2 minutes. Are you ready? Okay. Now, my colleagues, how about your country? Could you tell me the? Yes. Where is the bell? Ding, 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 ding. Pay attention, please. Okay. Yes. Okay. Could you tell me the situation of your country? Does anyone? Any volunteer? Yeah, Janet.
So as I played as a teacher 3 in your project, I think the situation is the same. Students are driven by the text-oriented situation, so it's hard, especially when the national tests, sometimes they cannot reflect on the students' real communication skills or their real ability. That's awful. And Valentina shares the same situation with mine. Thank you.
Thank you. How about others? Yeah, Uka.
Thank you. In our case, our students, I'm speaking about students of higher educations, they are so good at grammar and memorization of vocabulary, but when it comes to appliance of all their knowledge in performance-based assessment or in any task-based instruction, they find it really difficult to move to make this shift from language components into the situation where they will use English, where they will see English as a functional tool, not only as means to an end. Okay, thank you.
And thank you. So as you can see, we share several common problems. So I have a question to you. Do you think the traditional model of memorizing facts and reciting them out of context is sufficient to prepare students to adapt themselves to ever-changing world? No? So how can we solve these problems? Now, I want you to watch an online video. Sorry.
Sometimes it just takes like a. Here, let me try one more time. To get in, where is it? Is it above this one? Here,
It's really
this one. Okay, let's try it one more time from here. Here it is. There we go.
You remember what it was like in school. It was boring. You sat in class, memorized as much as you could, and tried to pass a test at the end. But is that good enough? These days, school can be more interesting and effective by focusing students on work that matters. This is project-based learning explained. Most adults live in a world of projects. Whether it's a job assignment, home improvement, or planning a wedding, we need to actively solve problems. But unfortunately, schoolwork looks more like this than this. Let's take a look at this project-based world. Meet Claire. She was recently presented with a challenge. Her company, Super Suds, makes soap, and it was up to her to find the most earth-friendly way to produce it in the future. Her boss gave her a budget and a few requirements, and it was up to her to come up with a solution. She organized and managed a team who researched the options and created materials summarizing the issues. Claire's team asked for feedback and presented their findings to the boss. Claire came out of the project looking like a rock star, and she learned a lot about green products. If you look closely, Claire's success involved critical thinking, collaboration, and communication, things that aren't often taught in traditional classrooms. The world needs more Claires, so how do we get them? The answer is project-based learning, or PBL. By focusing students on a project, teachers put them on a path that deepens their knowledge and builds skills they'll need in the future. Here's what I mean. Mr. Simmons has always been a good science teacher, and his students do well on Friday's tests. Unfortunately, what they learned was gone by Saturday morning. That wasn't good enough for him. Soon he learned about project-based learning and decided to give it a shot. Mr. Simmons got the idea for his first project on microorganisms when nearly half of his students were suddenly absent with the flu. He asked his students why they thought so many of their classmates got sick at the same time. That lively discussion produced a lot of good questions and a list of things the kids wanted to know. Mr. Simmons then announced their project was to help elementary school kids understand how can we not get sick. After dividing the class into teams, he got them started on the project. It was up to the students to ask questions, research, collaborate, give each other feedback, and figure out the best ways to make their points clear to children. One team chose to make an educational video on the connection between hand washing and avoiding the flu. Another chose to create posters to show how viruses spread. The project teams showed off their final work to an enthusiastic audience of parents and their children at a nearby elementary school. Sitting in the front row was our good friend and local rock star Claire, who saw a bit of herself in the students. It was clear that the project was a success for the students, the audience, and Mr. Simmons. His students practiced critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. The project wasn't about memorization, but learning in depth about viruses and how to prevent spreading disease, a lesson they will never forget. At the end of the presentation, Claire introduced herself to the students and told them that they were rock stars and that the world needs more people who can think like them. To learn more about
So now, let me explain about definition of project-based learning. So what is PBL? PBL is a learning system that recognizes the need to develop problem-solving skills and helping students to earn necessary knowledge and skills. It is in the process of dealing with real problems that students learn both content and critical thinking skills. Using PBL, students obtain lifelong learning skills and the ability to find and use appropriate learning resources. So how can PBL be done? First, students meet the ill-structured problem. Second, students identify what they know. Third, student defines the problem. Fourth, they gather information after listing the task to be completed. Fifth, they share information. Sixth, they synthesize information they gather and generate possible solutions. Seventh, they determine best fit solution. And finally, they present the solution and get feedback from teachers, classmates, and sometimes experts in the field. So why is PBL important? May I focus your attention on the screen? According to this chart, students remember 30% of what they see, and students remember 80% of what they experience. This means students learn by doing. So what are the advantages of PBL? PBL can improve motivation to learn. The motivation to solve real problems can be the motivation to find and apply knowledge. PBL can develop critical thinking by stimulating students' interest, creating meaningful discussion, and exposing them to views and opinions of others. Also, PBL can provide a model for lifelong learning. Students can learn how to learn because they are engaged in learning process. PBL can also encourage cooperative learning. Students can develop group skills such as reflection and clarification, also leadership skills by serving the chairperson of the group. So in summary, the traditional education practices tend to make students memorize a vast amount of information, but students forget much of what they learn after tests and class are over. However, in PBL courses, students can experience application and application of knowledge while solving real problems. So PBL is experiential and learner-centered. In this way, PBL enables students to prepare to adapt themselves to their future life. So why don't we start incorporating PBL into our classroom? Thank you for your attention. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Yes, Bella? Sorry.
Thank you, Hiroko, because I've been practicing this technique and I find it highly effective. And first, I would like to thank you for promoting it among our community of teachers. My question to you is a little bit tricky, and I don't know answer to it. So, it's a very good method. Why do you think teachers are not applying it? Why they are not jumping into this opportunity? What do you think is the preventive factor, and what can be done about it?
I think
Thank you.
You know, teachers don't learn English in the way of PBL. So we teachers sometimes afraid of, conducting the ways we have never experienced. But, what we have to do is start incorporating new methods to enable students to master 21st century skills. So I think we teachers have to challenge many things. Thank you.
Thank you, Hiroko. for your presentation. I have another problematic question. I'd like to know how can teacher of English face the challenge of putting students into groups, having them work on a project but use a foreign language instead of their mother tongue. So what can be some strategies that can help us secure their communication in English and development of their communicative skills? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So, for example, what I'm trying to do now in my school is incorporating mini PBL project into classroom. For example, what I did last month was that my students got an email from assistant language teacher who is a native speaker of English. And he wrote email to my students about Japanese cultural festival and events. So after students read the email, students start researching Japanese festivals and events and start writing reply to him. So this was a good activity actually to start mini PBL project in my school, because we have assistant language teacher in my school. So this means it's a kind of reality to students. And also by writing email, students also can learn how to learn email in English. So what I mean is I'm trying to incorporate the use of foreign language into, how can I say, actual practical ways.
Hi, Hiroko.
Hi.
What a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
I have two questions that have come through, one through a tweet and one through Facebook. Let's start with one from Sakura from Japan, who says, great idea to introduce PBL in Japan. And her subsequent question is, does this mean that English universities will need to revise the way they test assessment?
Actually, now it is under discussion in Japan. So universities are trying to change their style of entrance examinations. So far, the students have taken multiple choice examinations, but now it will be changed into new style of examinations. So I think the style of examination will be changing near future.
Do we have time for one more?
Just one more quick question.
Okay, this question comes from Rose from Egypt, and it's a very good question for those of us who have used project-based learning. When you use project-based learning, you have to really pre-plan and develop the tasks ahead of time. This question, it relates to developing tasks for project-based learning. And her question is, students have a lot of learning styles and different multiple intelligences. What criteria would you say you need to keep in mind when developing these tasks?
Each student has different learning styles, visual and kinesthetic, something like that. So what we teachers have to pay attention to is include all kinds of learning styles into classes. I know it is very hard, but we have to meet the demands of students. So yes.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank
Rosa.
you.
Thank you for your answers and your presentation. Wonderful job.